My name is Ed Accura, and I'm the producer of the short film documentary A Film Called Black Can't Swim. The aim of the film is to understand why a disproportionate amount of black people and ethnic minorities can't and don't swim. On my journey to find the truth, I have the pleasure of speaking with a British radio and television presenter and news reporter. She has worked on ITV Central News, Sky News, the BBC, Imagine FM, Touch FM, and she produced Ladies of Lyrics, an hour-long documentary about UK female rappers for BBC Radio 1 Extra. Marverine Cole, welcome to In the Deep End with Ed Accura.
Hi Ed, thank you so much for asking me on. It's good to speak to you.
Good. So, swim. I take it you do swim.
This is a story in itself. So I was obviously intrigued by your documentary because I remember at a very young age, it must have been about 6 or 7 years old, being taken to the local swimming bath with my primary school in Birmingham, where I grew up in Birmingham, and I really loved it, absolutely loved it. I was very good at backstroke more than front crawl, and we would go every week. We'd walk down the road, we'd walk across our district where we lived in Bartley Green to the senior school. So at the time there was a boys' grammar school, and that had a big swimming pool that we went to every week, and I would love it. Things changed though when I got to senior school, and we would then go from our girls' senior school to the local swimming bath up in Harborne in Birmingham, and I just stopped enjoying it, and for some reason I had a sudden and irrational fear of the water. And so with swimming lessons, they stopped being such fun. I didn't fib and lie to get out of them. I did go every week, but I kind of just splish-splashed around and didn't really do the tasks that was asked.
Why did you suddenly, all of a sudden, stop enjoying it?
I think a combination of things. I think puberty for a young girl. I also think, the kind of weekly effect of chlorine on my hair, even though I would wear a swimming cap. My mum was always very conscious about making sure you got a good swimming cap on, it was tight on your head. Water clearly would still get under that cap and into my hair. And I didn't like the smell of the chlorine, and that would mean Mum would be washing my hair as soon as I got back, and I hated the hair washing process, and then and even then, it would kind of stunt the growth of my hair, and the combination of all those things meant I didn't enjoy the process, didn't enjoy swimming. For some reason I fell out of love with it, and I also just got scared of the water, got scared of going under, hated the feeling of water rushing up my nose, burning my eyes. Add to the fact that I was a glasses wearer at that time, the whole of my young life. So my eyes would burn. I couldn't really see where I was going to swim lengths properly. And what my mum had to do was, you're going to laugh at this, Ed. I obviously wore glasses all the time, and my mum made a makeshift kind of elastic. She got like a long piece of elastic from her dressmaking that she used to do, and tied, a bit of elastic from one end of my glasses to the other, so the glasses could stay on my face while swimming, right? I could actually see where I was going properly because I had bad eyesight.
Ingenious.
So I'd be splashing around the water. I could see, but then obviously the water was splashing on my glasses. It was just all levels of non-enjoyment for me, Ed. And so, I was so relieved when the swimming classes at senior school stopped, because, I was taking my O-levels, and really I was very academic, so I was very happy not to go swimming and dig into my lessons. And from then on, I've never really enjoyed swimming.
So up until now, you still don't enjoy swimming?
I do not actively swim. So I love a splash in a pool, in a jacuzzi, in a swimming pool at the gym, swimming pool on holiday. I love a splash around in the sea. I'm not afraid of water in that sense. But what I am careful about is not slipping and getting under the water. I don't want to. The fear of like water going up my nose and in my eyes and all that again, and bringing back all those memories from school is too much. So I don't swim in water, but I will splash about. And if I'm in a pool, Ed, I like to keep my feet on the bottom. I want to feel my feet on the bottom of the pool. I don't even enjoy treading water.
But you can do it if you are in trouble or someone's in trouble and you needed to do it. If my life
depended on it, Ed,
you could do it.
Like everybody else, right? I would definitely. I'm sure my fight or flight instinct, right, would kick in, and I'd be swimming for my life.
And I think that's the main thing, because it's a life skill. So as long as we recognize it as a life skill and have that skill under our belt, so to speak, that is the main thing.
Yeah.
So, do you see a difference in attitudes in swimming between your black and ethnic minority friends and white friends?
I don't know. I mean, the girlfriends that I've been on holiday with, they love a swim, and they always go like, "Come on in, Mom, come on in." I'm like, "Yeah." So I'll be just here, like, splashing around in the corner. For my own friendship group, not a big difference. All my other black female friends and male friends would be splashing about whenever we've been on holiday. The same as my white friends, but I know, because obviously there are tons of there's tons of us, hundreds of thousands of us in the diaspora, across the UK, and everybody's experience will be different. But my friendship group, no difference at all. If anything, I was the odd one out, just because I, have this memory of not enjoying it from, teenage years.
That's good. At least there's hope.
There's absolutely hope.
That's good. Something that's mentioned a lot, it may be a reason or an excuse, but for today I'll stick with it being a reason. The reason why many ethnic adults, and certainly those that live in less affluent areas, don't learn how to swim, they say, is cost. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, anecdotal evidence is one thing, but I think the data is the other. And being a journalist, I firmly believe in the data. So I'd like to see some research about whether or not that is actually true, and how far, that data is split down into people's true reasons that they've given in some sort of survey around why they don't go. I know there's an issue around council-owned swim baths and the availability of those, whether or not they, exist in certain areas, because they're the options, aren't they? They're the low-cost options, where you'll pay, a few quid to go and be at the council bath, and it's the cost of those baths, whether or not that's prohibitive. I would find it, I'm sure any council would find it hard to open a public bath for free, because those buildings do need to be maintained and paid for in some way, for people to go to them. So I don't have a view on it until I know, where know more about the availability of public baths, and whether or not cost, has been cited through data and research as a true reason stopping people.
The media, the government, the education system. So I have my personal views on these establishments and attitude towards the subject that we're discussing today. Today is all about you, not about me. So my views I shall put to the side. The media, do you think they have a responsibility?
We heap a lot of responsibility on the media, and at the end of the day, a lot of media organisations are privately owned, so they can do what they like. They can make programmes and produce content that they like. but then, we have public service broadcasters like the BBC, like Channel 4, who get government money, or who, and that garner the license fee for, from audiences. And in many respects, those words public service should mean that they should really be looking to the audience they serve. I would say, given that many more black and minority ethnic audiences don't feel underserved, particularly by the BBC, so they're not watching or listening or engaging as much with them. It makes you wonder whether or not the BBC would want to reach out, or Channel 4 would want to reach out and make programmes like that. So I think, we've got to look to people who have already made really interesting headlines around swimming. I mean, a friend of mine, Ed Accura, who used to present Blue Peter, and he now presents kind of rugby programming and Premier League football programming. He set out to learn to swim, and he's set 2 world records of swimming.
He's from the Channel, didn't he?
In some of the deepest stretches on the planet. Yeah, he swam 5 miles across the abyss in the Pacific Ocean back in 2011. So he's made headlines around the kind of the swimming awareness that he's raised around the lack of black and minority ethnic people swimming. And I think, what he does and what you do are great. And if there could be programmes made around that, great. It's all about the will of commissioners as well, people making the programmes, because, not every programme maker or not every content maker is sitting there going, we have a duty to raise awareness of this. It's kind of down to people like Io and you who are making these documentaries and making these headlines. I think that's kind of the way forward, really.
Yeah, because I've been also working with Alice Deering, the only black swimmer in Team GB, and we've been highlighting blacks can swim, and talking as much about it, and trying to encourage a lot of people to actually just consider it, think about it, and think about the dangers of not being able to swim. So.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, there was the whole, literally, the Black Girls Don't Swim, so Sarah Jones.
That's right, yeah.
Who made the documentary last year. That's right, when Alice Deering was part of it. So Sarah made that documentary for Radio 4, which is really, really interesting. So there are pockets of programming being made, commissioned, which is great. So what you're doing is all part of that awareness, really, to make people kind of think about it more and try and develop that as a life skill if they don't already.
Racism in sports, a sensitive subject. So you hear all the stories, especially football and in swimming, and about the racist antics. Do you think this is a reflection of the society we're living in today?
Yeah, I think, I think the heightened racism everywhere, not just in sport. In the NHS now, we hear about doctors, nurses, health professionals being racially abused in their workplace by patients on a daily basis, and the high numbers of that, and hate crime and all the rest of it. I just think we're living in a kind of politically volatile climate, which, particularly around or since the Brexit referendum decision, some racists feel very buoyed, and enthused and encouraged to say really what they might have hidden, right, and not said, or said covertly or amongst close friends. They now feel buoyed to be able to say things that are out and out racist. I think the antidote to that is that strong, swift action should be taken against people who do that, because it's hateful, and institutions should make sure they have robust policies to handle people who are racist, and make sure that those people are kind of reprimanded accordingly. that's the only way that we're going to clamp down on racism. You know, we call it out, and people who are found to be racist get to feel the consequences of their actions.
We have a job ahead of us, but it has to be done. Yeah. So, one of the issues that has been highlighted is the lack of visible role models within the black community. So basically, I asked myself, if we were more visible, if people saw more black people swimming as on an Olympic level, on an elite level, would that make a difference?
I think representation is a really interesting thing. I think, you know, you can't be what you can't see. I think I coined that phrase from the Chancellor of the university where I work, Birmingham City University. Sir Lenny Henry said that. And I'm sure many other people have said that too. But I remember him saying that when he visited our university earlier in the year. You can't be what you can't see. And so unless people who are doing great work, you know, from the African Caribbean diaspora, unless we see them, unless they actually kind of highlight the work that they're doing so we can see them, then we're not going to be, we may not be readily inspired. But I think what's nice about the way that things have changed is that social media means that people are able to kind of promote themselves and what they do instead of waiting for anybody else or waiting for permission for anybody else to say, am I allowed to talk about what I do? Because we can all do it ourselves, right? On Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, whatever we're using, on Snapchat. We can say, hey, this is what I'm doing and I'm really proud of it. Because those are the spaces now where young people who are coming up, who you know, may be inspired by role models, that's where they kind of live predominantly, on social media. And so things will change, times will be changing. You know, I was always inspired by seeing Sir Trevor MacDonald and Moira Stewart reading the news on British television. You know, when I was a kid, we were looking at 40 odd years ago, they inspired me to become a journalist. And there are many more black and minority ethnic role models now being visible and saying, hey, I do this in swimming, hey, I do this in rugby, hey, I do this in football, hey, I do this in law, I do this in accountancy, I do this in, you know, science, technology, engineering and maths. So as society changes and role models come out more and more, I think, you know, that there'll be more people, more young people wanting to branch out into different industries. So
about you, so what have you been up to lately? What's your plans for the future?
Wow, okay, gosh, ooh, you ask a journalist, this is it. So in my little outpost out here in Birmingham, so Britain's second city, a city of 1.3 million people, I do a fantastic job. So, you know, I've been a journalist for 16, 17 years, a television and radio news journalist and news reader, and I still produce content. But what I also do is I teach the journalists, the future stars of journalism. So I'm the head of undergraduate journalism courses at Birmingham City University, where we teach 3-year degrees in journalism, sports journalism, music journalism, and fashion and beauty journalism. So I have a team of lecturers, and we all teach, 18, 19, 21-year-olds how to go out there and be reporters, which is really fun and really exciting. And I also still make documentaries. So I made a documentary for BBC Radio 4 last year about mental illness and black women's experiences of mental illness. So that's called Black Girls Don't Cry, and that's still available online now.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Oh, great! Yeah. It's still available. I made it last year, and it's up for an award. So really exciting. I've just launched a new podcast series called Fabulous Woman, about everyday women who inspire. Me having a chat with interesting women, a different one in each episode. And I've got a few other podcasts in the pipeline that will be coming in 2020.
You're doing a great job.
So are you, Ed.
And I watch what you do and what other journalists are doing, and that's what inspires me to do what I do. And thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak with me.
Pleasure.
Hopefully, we'll be able to eradicate the issue and get more people swimming and less people drowning.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is really inspirational. I think spreading the word, and keep doing it. Keep doing it, and keep talking to people, and keep raising that awareness.
Thank you very much.